Welcome to the Marriage Be Like podcast. We're your hosts, Kenny
and Kenya.
And we are so glad that you are joining us today. Listen, this podcast is here to discuss love and relationships, life topics, and how to navigate through it all.
Disclaimer, we are not specialists or counselors or professionals in these fields. We are a married couple who's got 27 years of life experiences under our belt. We hope to open some discussions, build communication, and plant some seeds. So sit back, enjoy, and let's have a conversation and grow together. Hey, welcome back to another episode.
Welcome back.
We appreciate you coming and listening in.
Yes.
Look, last week we talked about being vulnerable.
Yeah, we did.
So this is part 2. We're sticking with it, folks. We're sticking with it. All right.
Part 2.
So if you're a first-time listener, thanks for listening. We appreciate you coming. Go ahead and stick around.
That's right.
Come again next week.
And share with your family and them.
Yes, this is true. And if this is your second, third, fourth, fifth, and you've been listening since the beginning of the year.
That's right.
Come
on. Yeah.
Come on. Keep coming.
Keep coming. We appreciate it.
Keep working on it. Keep listening to us. Keep talking with us. Yes.
That's right.
We appreciate you. We surely do.
Sure do.
This is not just a marriage podcast. So I know that we had mentioned that last week because we've had quite a few people ask at this point. Yeah. So we do discuss things that everybody deals with. We discuss things that not just married couples deal with.
So
relationships.
Yeah, and various types of relationships. Relationships. I mean, you're talking about relationships with family members, right?
Yes, this is true.
Yeah,
and being vulnerable. This is the perfect time to discuss your kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yes, if you have people who are single, you know someone who you want to share with, and if they're not married, don't say, "Oh no, well, it's a marriage podcast." It's a little bit of everything podcast.
It's for them too.
It's for them too.
Yes.
Yes. So. Thanks for joining us on envisionradio.com.
Envision-radio.com.
Thank you. We're on Thursdays at 4 o'clock.
4 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Make sure I get that right.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yep. And then if you don't catch us on Thursdays, you can catch us on Friday.
Yes.
At marriagebelike.com. Or wherever you get your podcast.
That's true.
Yeah, so we post them up there. So, yeah, there it is.
Yes, there it is. So, look, we're going to jump right in.
Yes.
All right. So, last week, again, we talked about being vulnerable. And the discussion got good, so we're going to do it again this week.
Right.
Finish it off. We didn't get to actually say everything we said we were trying to say last week.
Right.
So, we're continuing. But just want to do a quick review.
Yes.
Being vulnerable. What is being vulnerable? What is vulnerability?
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So being open to possibly hurt, usually emotionally, but being honest about your feelings and etc.
Yeah.
All right. It's risky for embarrassment or misunderstanding.
Yes. But it builds relationships, builds connection and trust.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So
it pays to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I know last week we were kind of speaking in a timid fashion.
Yeah, I'm here for it now.
I know. Look, I feel a whole lot different this week.
Yeah, I'm here for it now.
And not that we are timid towards each other or even, not vulnerable with each other. I think it was just for me just saying it on the radio for the first time.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Maybe just being able to expand that vulnerable audience.
Okay. Yeah. I think I think starting off even in a timid fashion kind of lends itself to how we grow in our ability to be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, at first we are timid or maybe guarded, I should say.
Yeah.
And so then when it comes down to it, there is a level of maturity or growth that we have to experience before we can really go full out vulnerable.
Yes.
And so even
comfort.
Right. So then even when we talk about last week we sounded a little I know I did. You may have been a little more ready for it than I was, but I think I think that just really speaks to the process in growing in that vulnerability.
Yes.
So, because I know one of the things that came to mind last week was trust.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's part of what
that was a big thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even hardly say the word vulnerable. And I realized that So I was like, oh man. Just, I felt like in the podcast because we were talking about it, I said a lot. And I was like, geez, I think that's probably the most I've ever said that word.
No, you're right. I don't recall that. I mean, we don't use that in general conversation, right?
No, yeah. I think we just open and speak and talk and do because we're married.
Yeah.
But it kind of also is a choice to do that.
Okay.
Does that make sense for those who may not be married? Like, for instance, when we were dating, we had to decide, okay, am I going to open up and talk about this
Yeah.
to this guy who I'm dating?
Right. Yeah.
And then as time goes on, you get more and more open, so on and so forth.
So let me ask you a question. Because I was thinking about this earlier. When how some people they have a trustworthy face.
Oh.
Is it? I mean, is it they have a trustworthy face?
You feel people's vibes.
Okay.
You feel people's energy.
Because sometimes and I've got to admit, there are times when I speak to people, I can just meet them and then they want to tell me everything, And
I recently had that. I didn't even see her face to face. Remember I told you that conversation with a client? I was like, oh, okay. Gave me all kinds of business.
Right.
And I was like, all right. But I guess she just felt it was okay.
I mean, how, because I guess, like I said, I mean, the big thing for me last week was trust, and I want to touch on that today. But sometimes we see people, and it's like, yeah, you get to hear everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how did this person build that much trust? You know what I'm saying? Or
some people are just that open. I felt slightly awkward from the conversation though.
Okay.
Talking to her because when I got off the phone, like, it was funny to me that she was that open. When I got off the phone, I literally just sat there.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had to process what she just told me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that she knew us. She had no clue that we did a marriage podcast. We were talking to her about other things.
Yeah.
So I just found that very interesting, and I had to stop. And it took me a bit. I didn't even tell you right away.
Right. No. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's just not me necessarily. I have to at least know you.
Okay.
And feel comfortable with you to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, basically, folks, she told me something about her marriage. And I was shocked.
Okay.
Because that's an intimate situation.
Yeah. Yeah. For someone you never met face to face.
Yeah. Don't. I know what she looks like from social media.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, so it's interesting because.
But it was actually kind of cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we talk about trust being an integral part in our ability to or willingness to be vulnerable.
Yes.
To open up because we want to be able to trust someone. So, and last week when we touched on that, I was really curious. Okay, well, how much does trust play into that?
I don't know. I can only speak for me. I really don't have an answer for that. For me, it's a lot.
Okay.
But I don't know about everybody.
I mean, I think it would be different for different people, right? Different strokes
if you're an outgoing person with a bubbly personality, maybe if you're a big talker,
right?
Then it may come easier just because that's what you normally do.
But I mean, so trust is such a subjective concept.
Yeah.
Because it varies from person to person. You trust this person more than the other. So then I'm going to trust you more than the next person. So then you get to hear more about who I am than the next person does.
Yeah, but maybe everyone doesn't feel that way.
I mean,
I know that's how I operate.
But what is it then that makes, if there's no real relationship, right? What makes it easier for a person to open up and be vulnerable or share when we haven't had an opportunity to build any trust there?
I don't know that answer. I think it may be person to person.
Yeah.
Maybe some people don't see that as being vulnerable.
Okay.
They may just feel like, oh, okay, well, I can talk about it. I ain't hiding nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not necessarily see it as that word, but just see it as being real.
Yeah. I remember last week we talked about the our willingness to be vulnerable sometimes can be based on how where we are in the process of that situation or those
Yes. We
circumstances.
talked about even in life and
Yes.
how that has played a part or how it changed us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so then I think that plays a part in that. I will open up and I will share simply because, hey, I have gone through it
Mm-hmm.
and it's behind me.
So now I can talk about
I
it.
can talk about it. But if I'm still going through it and I haven't fully navigated the situation, then I'm not ready to talk about it yet because
Yeah.
I mean I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I get that.
So I mean, yeah, but I don't know, because another part of me looks at um, our willingness to be vulnerable. We talk about trust, and I don't want to be judged by where I'm feeling or how I'm, what I'm saying, or
Absolutely. Which is why I brought up, how you grow up.
yeah,
Um, it could be family members, it could be friends, it could be schoolmates and classmates, it could be anybody really,
right,
somebody you go to church with. But if you have put yourself out there in any way that you would not normally do, and that openness was rejected in any form, the chances of you doing it again are much slimmer, I
okay,
think.
yeah,
Um, and if it happens again, well, you know what I mean? Even if it's not the same situation, if it's not the same person, if it doesn't happen the same way,
yeah,
but if it's not encouraged, your openness and vulnerability, if it's not encouraged, I can see people holding back and scaling back.
mm,
So then you go, and I'm just talking about kids, teenagers, you know what I mean? Because, when you're younger, you kind of, I feel like we're more open to it just because we don't know no better.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like kids say the darndest things, well, they don't know not to say it.
yeah,
So they say it. And it's funny to us, they don't even know that they're being funny.
right.
They don't even
Right.
know that it's funny.
Well, that's because our experience, right, has tendered the way we view things.
Right. And so you learn and grow. But
Yeah.
if your surroundings don't encourage vulnerability,
Mm,
then you're not going to do that
okay.
as quickly, as easily, or as often,
Okay.
I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Some
hey.
people, I mean, there's not everybody. There's always going to be some who just do because that's who they are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm looking at, the generation today, we talk about feelings. Today, we talk about counseling. Today, people are more open and more vulnerable. And that has not always been.
Yeah.
So there's something to it.
You know, I think that I mean, to your point, right? There's something to it. I think that is very important for us. I mean, for us, for us as parents, right,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to set standards
Yeah.
with our children, which they're not young, right?
Right. No, but in general.
In
Yeah.
general, but setting the standards and setting examples for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I mean, I think that even when coming to them and having discussion with them for guidance, I feel like there are times when, hey, I have to share what my experience was, so that they can understand um, the point that I'm trying to make, the principle that I'm
Yes.
trying to share, and even
The
if
wisdom you trying to break off on them.
right, and even if I use myself as an example
Yes.
to say, well, you know what, this is the mistake that I made,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't do this right, and I don't want you to make that same mistake. Um, and so then I have to be open enough and vulnerable enough to share that with them,
Yes.
and if I can't do that, all we're saying is, do as I say, not as I do, right? Do as I, or not so much that, but we're telling them do it because I said so.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But if you tell them what you've done and what your experience is, then that allows them to be vulnerable too because they
Yeah.
heard it.
And I think we talk about trust, but I think my being vulnerable to them,
Mm-hmm.
my being vulnerable to you,
Mm-hmm.
or anyone that I have any kind of close relationship with, builds your trust in me.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and I don't know that we necessarily even gave the question. We just kind of jumped on in there
Jump in it.
for real,
Yes.
jumped on in there. But
Yeah.
we're basically kind of discussing how trust plays the willingness to be
Right.
vulnerable. And to your point, even about strangers and just putting yourself out there, that's really what it is. It is kind of chancy.
Mm-hmm.
You are putting yourself out there to see if the trust will be returned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think about smiling at a stranger. If you're in the store and you walk by somebody, sometimes it could be awkward.
Yeah.
You're just walking by a stranger,
Right.
but what do you do? Not look at them? No, you look. You're looking at everything, but you also look at them. You wave or you speak or you
Right.
smile or say hey, or whatnot. Nod your head.
Right. Right. Now, environment plays a lot in that too.
True. But oftentimes I will do one of the above.
Okay.
I very rarely just walk by people. And if so, it's because I am so in thought that I just did not. But I hardly ever, or at least I don't mean to, I'll put it that way, because
Okay.
I can't say that I don't. But I do try to speak to people as they walk by.
Yeah.
You never know who needs a smile.
Now, you're absolutely right.
Because I know I need them sometimes.
One of the things that I say that I'd make a goal of my life is every interaction I have with anyone that I come in contact with is to make you smile or make you laugh.
Yeah.
If you walk away from our interaction and you did not smile, I failed.
But that's actually being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even though it sounds silly or funny or something small, that is a piece of vulnerability because you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then furthermore, they don't have to smile, they don't have to speak, they don't have to laugh.
I've set myself up for failure or rejection.
But it's chancy. That is correct.
Yeah.
Another one, just talking to friends and that kind of thing. Let's say discussing personal items like health challenges or something that's going on with your kid or whatever. Even though they're a friend, you may not necessarily go there with them, which is what we were discussing earlier, saying, one friend may not know this, but another friend I may trust a little more.
Yeah.
But it's still putting yourself out there and being able to say, hey, well, let's see if I can trust so-and-so. Even if it's not a direct decision, it's still being vulnerable and it's still, you know what I mean? Talking about relationships to someone that you may feel like could take that, or even an issue with your spouse that you may feel like, hey, this person could give me some advice. Let me just say what this is real quick. And the question is, how will that be received?
Yeah.
Because you have to make that decision to speak that. But you don't know if it's going to be received or not. You don't know if they're going to give you good advice for that matter. You're just taking a chance. But I think it's all pieces of being vulnerable.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question about vulnerability? And this is something really just popped in my head. Okay. So forgive me if it's, it catches you off guard. But in order for me to be vulnerable, do I have to have already reconciled with my feelings regarding a certain situation?
I don't think so. I think and maybe I'll say this, depending upon the situation, because sometimes it's just a jump. Sometimes it's literally just a leap.
Yeah.
Other times it's, girl, let me tell you about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it may not even seem like a vulnerable situation.
Yeah.
And some things are intimate that may not necessarily seem intimate. Especially in a fun, open conversation. And even let's say, for instance, couple retreats.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you're going to be vulnerable,
right?
Because you have to open up to your spouse. The goal is to do that, is to make that connection and to discuss and talk. So then you're going into a couples retreat knowing that you're going to have to open a little bit more than you did yesterday or the
Right.
last time you was at a retreat.
Right. Right.
So, but I know I tend to always have good times when I go.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely do too.
And I don't know what they're going to ask me to do.
Yeah.
What our discussions will be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I was just curious because you talk about laying your cards on the table.
Yes.
I mean, do those cards have to be in order? You see what I'm saying? And
Yes, I do.
and that's kind of but I mean, you know what? Maybe they don't. Maybe it's better that they're not.
Yeah.
Because at that point is when we can come together and put them in order together. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I
You can
think
be vulnerable about something when you were younger and not later on in life.
Yeah.
But vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So how do we build that trust in each other so that we can be vulnerable, right? And we say that it requires a level of trust, right? So how do we build that?
If you know that someone is speaking to you in a vulnerable state, if you know someone's speaking to you about something that's intimate, or if you know someone's talking to you and you don't feel like they've been that open before, even if it throws you off, because it just might. Don't judge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be demeaning.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
100%, because people are not looking to be hurt when they're wanting to share.
Yes,
right?
this is true.
But but here's another part of that question. How do if you want me to be more vulnerable, right, and share more of who I am to you, how would you convince me that you're trustworthy?
By doing the same.
You saying that you got to start it
Yes,
off.
somebody's got to start it off. You know what I mean? I mean, you become friends with someone because you all have a connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you all talk about different things because you feel what?
Vulnerable.
You feel comfortable.
You're comfortable. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So then I think it goes the same way. So you want some kind of sense that I can put myself out there. But I think that in doing so, the person who is listening should be encouraging. And if someone just does it, and if person A has not done it, but person B is giving some information, then person B is really just putting it out there to put it out there or getting it off their chest. Sometimes that's the case too.
Yeah.
I just need to tell somebody, you know what, this is driving me nuts.
Right.
And it won't hurt. Maybe person A should say, you know what, such and such and such and such. I agree. And I had this situation, maybe not at that point, but I had a situation too. So that it's a give and take, because I very much think that it is.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to do a segment?
Yes. You ready to do a segment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do a segment.
Okay.
All right. So this segment is I was impacted by, or what impacted me this week.
what moved me this week? See, this is what happens, people, when I let him do stuff. When I let him
would you let me do it?
Rename it. Just, I tell you what.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
it's
failed.
Okay, because I was like, are we doing a new one?
Yeah, no. Okay.
I'm teasing. It's okay.
I was moved by.
We can call it move. We can call it impacted by, however you want to do it.
So what is it called? I was moved by? Oh.
Yes.
Okay. I was moved by. I was moved by this
week. Impacted me this week.
Yes. I like it though.
Okay.
Either way.
That's fine.
So the reason why we do this, right? If you heard this for the first time, if not, you're hearing it again. We're really just trying to spark some communication betwixt each other, right?
Oh. I'm saying yes. No, wait, betwixt.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a delayed response.
So between each other, and then we get a chance to learn a little bit about what moves us.
Yes.
From week to week. All right. So, babe.
No, you going first.
I'm going first.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just seeing the segment. I wasn't sure what segment we were doing.
Oh, okay.
Give me a moment to
All
think.
right. Sorry, I didn't give her time. All right. Well, here it is. We're talking about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this week, I had a conversation with a friend, and I'm trying to make this as vague as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this friend was sharing their experience with a particular family member that that they had some strained relation with.
Okay.
Okay, and over the years, it had been a pretty tough time. But the this particular family member uh, met a health challenge,
Mm.
and as a result, um, are trying to mend some of the broken bridges between the two of them.
Wow. Okay.
And in you know, sharing that information, it was quite clear that you know, this friend of mine was just really just laying their cards on the table, as I mentioned, right, being vulnerable. But it gave me an opportunity to share a similar experience
Okay.
with them, and how I navigated through that type of situation, even in my family. You know what I mean? And so then it was just really really powerful to say, hey, you know what? I too have experienced something like this, and as a result, this is what we were able to do, and things came around, and things are much better, and I'm really happy about that. And it was an opportunity to really to encourage my friend in their effort to as they try to navigate through that process. So I was really moved by that,
Hmm.
that I was able to share something like that with them. So in keeping with the subject matter at hand, being
Yes.
vulnerable, yeah, that's what I was moved to be vulnerable so that I could help somebody in their process.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, what moved me this week? We celebrated my friend Anitra's birthday. Shout out to Anitra.
Nitra.
And it was a bunch of us girls that got together. Her husband actually planned a dinner, or not a dinner, it was a brunch
Okay.
for her and her best girlfriends, and we all just had a good time.
I didn't get invited, Joe.
No, because you're not a girl.
I am a boy.
Yes, I mean, I wasn't able to be there as early as I had hoped because I had a prior engagement. But when I got there, I mean, the conversation was great, and she just grinned and smiled, and you could just see her happiness.
Oh,
It was so beautiful, and it was just nice to be able to talk to all the women, and we were offered. Some probably didn't know each other. I don't know. I knew everybody.
okay.
But yeah, we took pictures afterwards in the hot sun. We were so happy to see each other. We just kept on talking out there. We were done
Okay.
eating.
Yeah. Getting kicked out the restaurant, ain't it?
Yes, next to. But also while I was there, I found several other people who I knew hadn't seen in a while.
Okay.
Shout out to Monday. I don't know if she listens.
Ah, Monday. Yes.
So shout out to Monday. And she just kind of caught me up on the kids. We used to work together a long time ago at the
A long
daycare.
time ago.
Yes. So, but I saw some other people. And also, our waitress was from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
You didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me that.
You know what? I'm in thinking about it just now. I
Okay.
remembered.
You're supposed to tell me everything, but anyway.
Her name was Kendra. There we go.
Really?
Her name was Kendra. She said she'd been here 2 years.
Okay.
And she said she's kind of picked Huntsville out off the map and said, okay, I'm going there.
Oh, wow.
And has loved it since she moved here.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool to stand and talk to her a little bit. And she got to see, she was quite impressed about all the women who were there and giggling and talking and just having a good time. And said she really hadn't seen that before. So that was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have been moved by that too, especially if I was invited. But
yeah, you're not a girl. You could have came and took the pictures for us. That's what you could have done at the end. That's what the men did.
Yeah. No, I'm glad I was not there. How about
pay for the check?
Her husband did that.
Yes.
So.
But yeah, it was a nice crowd of us ladies. We had a good time.
All right.
It's been a while. And so even he said that he could tell. Shout out to Antonio.
Antonio.
He could tell that it's been a while. So yeah, it has. We just happy to be around each other and talk and enjoy.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, babe. Glad you had that experience.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get back into this vulnerability thing. right? So what you got for me?
Does vulnerability change as we get older?
Ah, you know what? I think yes.
Yes.
Oh, is that your answer too?
Yes. Go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I think yes. I think as we mature,
Mhm.
we realize that vulnerability is essential for growth.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's essential. I mean, because here's the thing: um, if you don't know where you are, if you don't establish where you are, you don't know where you're going,
Yes.
right? And you don't know how to navigate from where you are to where you need to go.
Yes.
Did you follow that?
I think I did. Mhm.
Yeah, and so in order to get there, you've got to be able to have these conversations and really kind of not hold back.
Yeah.
You know, not hold back,
And when you're
and
older, as you mature, I think you hold back less. You're just more open. You don't even care the same.
yeah, okay,
I mean, if embarrassment or shame were your issues from being vulnerable, I don't think that those things, you may be tired of holding on to that for
mm,
so many years as you get older. And it's like,
yeah,
you know what? I don't have to keep doing this.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I know, and
I
I can,
can't take this no more.
yeah, I can only say for me, but I know when I turned 40, things just changed for me. It was like a literal light switch.
Okay,
And it was like I just saw the world differently.
wow.
And so I get when they say over the hill. At first, I was like, especially coming up to the age of 40, I was like, I don't understand why they say over the hill. I just don't get it. I did not get it. And then once I turned 40, I was like, oh, I get
You know,
it.
over the hill oftentimes is interpreted meaning health challenges and things like that, right?
Yeah. And oftentimes it does have a funny, people tease about it, but it also does have a negative side to it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was actually a positive side. I saw the world differently in a better way.
Okay.
And I was able to open up differently in a way that I had not before.
Yeah. Yeah.
To not just you, but to people in general.
Yeah.
My communication skills just completely changed. I did not care the same.
Okay.
And then 50 made it even better or worse, however you want to say it.
Right. Better or worse.
But I don't think that I'm the only one who does that. We tease about older people just saying whatever they want
Whatever
to.
they want to say. Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like it's a common thing.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I don't think that people hold back as much. And if you are a person who goes to counseling or has gone to counseling, then you have practiced being vulnerable. So then the chances of you holding back now after counseling or after at least starting counseling um, are less, I think,
Okay.
just because you've had that practice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the overall answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, so discussing feelings is more understood today than before. How can we do this for our children and generations of the future?
Yeah. I think I kind of
You,
alluded to this earlier.
yeah, you did.
Being I said setting standards, but more about being an example.
Yes.
We
We have to talk.
Yeah, we have to. And here's let me tell you what I've done in the past, and it's been a minute since I've done it. I probably need to do this again.
Mhm, what is it?
Well, I've taken my sons out
Mhm.
for the lunch or
Oh, guy
dinner.
dates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like that term.
Okay.
Guy days.
Father-son dates?
I guess it's fine.
Father-son time? When they were younger, I used to call them father-son dates.
Okay.
'Cause
Well,
we would have mom and son dates.
yeah. Well, take them out, and I remember asking the question, "Hey, you think I'm a good dad?"
Mhm.
You know, and that's a clear setup for
Yeah, well, shoot. You have that personal time.
yeah,
They don't have their sibling with them. It's just you and them. There's
yeah,
no one else to interfere.
yeah,
So it's a open and honest situation.
yeah. So and it gives me a good I don't know like
Good idea what their thought process is and what they're thinking.
yeah, what they're thinking, and
Guide as to what you need to change.
right. Yeah, I mean, what was it? A youngest said to me, "Yeah, you spoil us," you know, and I appreciated
Would
him
he say
saying that.
that today? Would he say that today?
I don't know. I mean, because no, I don't think so.
I don't think he would either.
No, no, it's because I'm trying to help them be a man. You be a man. You don't need no other person taking
But
care
I
of you.
mean, even would he say that today about growing up? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure he would still say that. Yeah, and I think, and looking back, what you're saying, yeah, I think it would still be the same, and he may still answer that way.
The same way. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So, but I think giving that that example, being vulnerable to them, like I mentioned there, um, gives them that freedom. I want to say freedom, but the ability to see, hey, there's no harm here in
you're
that.
showing them how it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So
being able to let go of the ego or the fears,
yeah,
and just put yourself out there.
yeah.
The more you see it, the more you can do it.
That's right. There you go. Yep. So I think it's important for parents to be vulnerable with their children.
Yes, I agree. And I think that when that happens, they can find an easier time to do that with their spouses in the future and then with their children.
Yes.
And that's how it goes as far as generations are concerned.
Yeah.
Even how you see people behave growing up is what sticks with you because that's what was around you. That's your world around you.
Yeah.
So then if you do that for your children, that's now their world around them and they will do the same. You may not take everything, into the next generation, but you take a lot of what you know and what you've been around.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
What's the beautiful side of being vulnerable?
I have a story to tell.
Go ahead.
So overall, I was reminded that we are a team when I allowed myself to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Remember last week I said that as your husband, I'm the provider. I've got to make sure that you have what you need. Whether it, financially, security or whatever the case is, and I've got to be able to provide that. And
does that include an extra set of nails?
An extra set of nails?
Can I go a little earlier than normal?
You ready to get your nails done again?
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry, babe. Go ahead. Sidebar.
But yeah, no, last weekend I said I didn't want you to feel like I didn't have it under control. That I didn't want to give you the impression that I couldn't do what you expected me to do as your husband, as the provider for this home. But it took me finally one day years ago, and I mentioned to you, hey, I need some help with this particular thing. And I allowed myself to look like I didn't have it under control.
Yes.
And your response caught me all the way off guard because you said, okay, well, let's figure out how we can do this together.
Was that what I said?
Something like that.
I didn't even remember. Okay. I didn't know where you were going with it.
Yeah. I mean, that was what happened.
But kudos to younger Kenya.
Yeah. 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 Yes. But I mean, no, that's what happened. And then I realized, and I believe I said something to you about it. I said, wow, I really didn't expect you to respond that way. And if I thought about it, yeah, that's probably what you should have done, right?
Because we're a team.
We are a team. And, but it reminded me then that we are a team. And that to me was the beautiful side of being vulnerable.
Oh, there you go.
Because it helped me see the beauty in who we are together.
Right. I get it.
And I would not have seen that if I continued to
hold it together. Or
try to hold it together when I did not have it together at the time. And so So yeah, and if I had not said I don't have it together, you would not have stepped in to help, and I would not have recognized us as a team like I do now.
Okay.
Yeah. So the beautiful side of being vulnerable.
Yeah. So for me, that was nice, babe.
Yeah, babe. That's what I love about you.
Thanks, babe. So for me, I was thinking connecting with others, and I wasn't just thinking of a spouse situation,
Okay.
but connecting with others. And again, we mentioned it earlier. Um, Connecting with a friend
Yeah.
and feeling people's energy and that kind of
Yes.
thing,
Yeah.
but giving of yourself and allowing the space to be open
Oh, yeah.
um, comes in so many forms.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so her relationship,
Yep.
it
Yes.
comes in so many forms in a spouse relationship, and
Yes.
then in many forms in a friend relationship, in many forms in a family, a sibling relationship.
Right.
So and your relationship to each of those mentioned can be very different,
Yes.
but you still have to allow yourself to be open and give yourself space to be vulnerable. Um, and you'll do that with people who you already know. I think that I, I, again, I'll say for me, growing up, because my brother is my brother Joel, I was more vulnerable with him than anyone.
Mm.
Period. And even when you came along and we were about to get married, I was still more vulnerable with Joel because that's who I was used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talk about anything. And as far as I was concerned, Joel, one of my best friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Still.
Hmm.
But I was comfortable there because we grew up together.
Right.
And Joel had a lot of my secrets that I didn't even let, others know.
Hmm.
Um, he held secrets even when we were younger that wasn't in my diary. You know what I mean? So, but he was always encouraging. He was always willing to listen, and then he would give it back.
Yeah.
So we just trusted each other immensely. Now, for the record, my youngest brother, we did not have that same. So it can. My point is, it can vary
Yeah.
depending upon the relationship.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I had best friends and such, but all in all, Joel knew everything,
Hmm.
and still to this day, honestly. And so it really, looking at that when in our marriage, and I realized at some point, I don't remember what we were going through at the time, but I realized, I don't do that for Kenny.
Mm.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just didn't. And then one day I just decided to do that.
Okay.
I wasn't in my head, I wasn't using the word vulnerable,
Right.
but it
Right.
was more of my husband should be my best friend and he should know everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just decided that that's what was going to happen.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember that conversation,
Yeah. No.
but we were we were sitting in the room, we were talking, and I just kind of gave you a lot of the past that I had not given you before.
Okay.
And in the end, I got all off my chest, and you looked at me like, "Ooh, I need to process that." It was just a look. You never actually said the words. It was more like, "Okay, thanks, babe. I appreciate that." But the look was like, "Oh my God." But I think it was just a lot of information
Yeah.
because I had just made the decision to do that. And so, but I really felt better and I felt closer to you, which again, connection.
Yes.
I felt closer to you and I felt like from that point we could grow more. Not that you didn't know things about my past, but there were just other things that I didn't tell you. I
Right.
don't even know why.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
So there's my story about
Yeah. The beautiful side of being
Yes.
vulnerable.
I think that it made our marriage better too.
Yeah, I think everyone should. I mean, for those listening, everyone should, take a moment to kind of think about that, right? Because there have been times, I believe, in everyone's life
Mhm.
where they have allowed themselves, we've allowed ourselves to be vulnerable, and something beautiful grew out of that.
Yes.
And we've got to remind ourselves of these things because that could be a turning point in our life,
Yes.
in our lives. It could be an opportunity for us really to,
It can be a door opener.
yeah. And I mean,
what can happen after that?
a lot of things can happen as a result of that. So, I encourage all of our listeners, take a moment to kind of think about that. What is the beautiful side of being vulnerable? That's a beautiful question, babe, because, you know, we often think about being vulnerable in our feelings and a bowl of turmoil and tornado and storm and whatever. But the reality
that's
is
how it's given in society.
Yeah.
That's how it's
But the reality is on the other side of that is that level of peace, and maybe we may not have gained any better understanding, but we've gained a level of peace and
even a level of trust.
Yes, that we can grow through.
Yes.
And experience beauty as a result of having been vulnerable.
I think that in that there's power.
Yeah.
And that's also something that's not given when you talk about the word vulnerable.
Yeah.
There's actual power there because it changes things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't know what is going to change.
Yeah.
That thing that you may be struggling with is exactly what just might change.
Yeah.
It can literally change you.
Yeah.
But there's power there, but you don't know that there's power there until you tap into it. You have to go ahead and take that leap, step forward, and then see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get to see that beauty.
Man, I mean, and it can be a scary ride.
Yeah, it can be.
But that's not to discourage. I mean, we definitely want to encourage.
There's rainbows on the other side.
The rainbow.
Yes.
The rainbow. So how can we encourage the ones that we love to be more vulnerable?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Allowing them to see.
Okay.
And then giving understanding. I'm gonna go back to talking about it.
Okay.
Actually discussing being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Doing things like this podcast.
Right.
That encourages others. So then you may as well.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. I think, I mean, doing it and being more supportive than judgmental.
Yes.
We cannot attach harm to vulnerability.
No.
You don't want a person to feel like, hey, when I am vulnerable, I get hurt.
Yes. That's correct.
And I've got to admit, I believe it took me a long time to learn that.
Me too. Because I got hurt.
Yeah. And I might have been the one to kind of help perpetuate that kind of
no, not necessarily,
thing.
but it just is what it is. But in the midst of encouraging and speaking life.
Yeah.
Speaking life into that person, our words mean a lot.
Yes.
That sticks and stones. And no, because words do hurt.
Yes.
And words not only hurt, they stick. Yeah. So speaking life into that person. Toby Mac has a song called Speak Life. I can't think of how it goes right now, but I remember watching the video and the words came up on the video and they were powerful.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how that can change someone else. If it doesn't change you, because you're just saying the words, so it may not change you, but it could definitely change the words or how that person feels or how they hear it and how they respond and how they act from that point on because you spoke life into them.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, the power of words.
Yes.
The power of words. I mean, and using those words to encourage each other, I think that would be the most appropriate way.
Yes,
I mean, it's just to use communication. We cannot We cannot cut each other down.
Doing our segment, what moved me this week.
Yes.
And then encouraging, speaking about what moves you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about positivity. I know that there are, and I'm not one that walks around thinking that, hey, everything's going to be rosy and flowers, right? But I do know that there can be trying times. There can be struggles, but we got to push through. You know what I'm saying? We
Yes.
grow and encourage each other and find the beauty in life, like the beauty in vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I don't know if y'all felt it like we did.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you something. My whole tone. I don't know if y'all could tell, but my whole tone was a little different today because it was just really.
You weren't as giggly.
Right. I mean, but I really feel like this subject of vulnerability, once we figure it out,
Yeah.
It really sparks growth. I mean, Marriage Be Like podcast is really it's all about growth.
It is.
And we talk about all kinds of different things that affect marriages, affect relationships, and without being able to open up. Again, I really believe that opening up to being vulnerable puts us in a position for growth, puts us in a position for maturity, and
it gave me growth.
But the podcast.
Not necessarily the podcast. Yes, the podcast. But I was initially talking about being vulnerable and opening up.
Yeah.
Allowed me to grow, and I had to make a decision to do that, and then I had to make another decision to open up about particular topics.
Right.
But that's what gave me the idea of the podcast.
And I talked about what moved me this week, right? Sharing my experience with my friend as it related to their experience with their family member, right? Reaffirmed my commitment to strengthening the connection with my family member.
Got you.
And so I really that really supported me, and it gave me even more growth opportunity.
So y'all encouraged each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and I mean, and here's the thing, they didn't have to say anything to me to encourage me in that respect. It was me sharing and being vulnerable that reaffirmed. So it was almost as if I encouraged myself.
Okay.
Just by being vulnerable.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when we
encourage yourself.
Yes. Sometimes when we open up and put those words out there, you can't take them back.
Yes.
Right? You can't take those words back, and you put them out there. Now you got to stand on that.
Yeah, you did.
Stand on business, right?
Yes.
You got to stand on that. And so for me to use my experience to try to encourage somebody else, how can I not continue to strive or commit to that myself?
Agreed.
I
think that you should.
Yeah. So I think that's another part of being vulnerable.
It is.
Or vulnerability, that it really reaffirms even to ourself where we are in our circumstance, in that situation that we're growing through. It puts us in a position to continue to be committed to that process.
Okay. Well, look, that was a nice little summary. That was a nice little summary, but then it takes me back to our love lessons.
Yeah.
Connecting is key.
Yes.
Love is being vulnerable, and there's power in your vulnerability.
There is power in that vulnerability. I mean, so much power. Yeah. So I mean, this was a big one for me, and I appreciate you, Kenya, because it was in the middle of last week's episode. I said, "Oh, we need to do a part 2 to this."
Right, we did. You did.
Yeah,
that is correct.
And so I'm thankful that you obliged, and and so here we are now doing the second part. I could do a whole third part, but anyway, I'm not going to make you do that.
We can do part 3 if you want to. If you ain't finished discussing that, it's totally fine.
I mean, but
We'll see.
but that's the beauty of
Yes.
it. That's another beautiful thing. It's there's so much that we can grow from. And so I'm just happy. I mean, I'm ready to move on, but
Okay. Well, look, we got to move on and close.
yes.
Our time's almost up with y'all, so we got to give our closings real quick.
Yes.
So thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We're going to go back over that one.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for listening to our Marriage Be Like podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for listening on Envision Radio.
Yes.
Envision-radio.com.
Yes.
Thank you for listening every Thursday. And if you don't, please do.
That's right. 4 p.m. Eastern
4
time.
p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central time. Come check us out on our website at marriagebelike.com. Find us on all podcast platforms.
Yes.
Subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast.
Can you talk?
I cannot.
Okay.
It just got all messed up in there.
Yeah. You know what?
Say it for me, babe. You got it.
You got it?
Well, I just tell you this. So we are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. So you can find us all there. But the easiest way to go really is marriagebelike.com.
.com. Yes. That's what we have here is a failure to communicate. What was happening just now?
If you have any questions or like to give us a shout out or anything, you can email us at Kenny and Kenya
at marriagebelike.com. Yes. And look, like we said last week, it's just a big shout out to our son.
Yes. He didn't want us to put his name out there, so we're going to give his stage name or his
producer name?
Producer name. That's what I was looking for.
Yes.
All right. So shout out to our son, KEG Beats.
KEG Beats.
For our theme music.
Yes. Yes. You hear it right now.
Yes. So we got to give him his credit, y'all. Got to give him his credit. He did a good job.
Oh, and you know what? Can I say this? The Marriage Be Like podcast is a Green Room Entertainment production.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Green Room Entertainment production. We are, our family is Green Room Entertainment.
Yes, the Green Room Entertainment
production company.
Yes.
And so we produce this podcast.
That's right. So you can check us out at greenroomentertain.com. And the podcast at marriagebelike.com.
There you go.
Or you can listen on envision-radio.com. It's like saying that. .com.
I know you can go so much heavier and deeper than I can. I'm struggling over here.
Anyway, so look, we want to thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining.
And listening, share with everybody in them. This is the best podcast ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so check us out next week.
Check us out next week. Bye-bye.